I'm here with Deborah Carter, fabulous vocalist from the United States. She has been living in the Netherlands for many years, and we did a lot of projects together. We traveled to many countries, and we already recorded a podcast before, a more general one, Traveling Tips for Musicians. But now we're going to dive into different countries we've visited together, quite uncommon countries somehow. And now today we're going to talk about Burma, about Myanmar. Hi, Deborah.
Hello, Mike. Good to see you again. Good to talk to you again.
So with Burma and Myanmar, that's always a confusion, huh?
Let's just say it always is when the country changes names.
Yes.
So you for at least for a decade or so, you have to say both names, just in case. True.
Yeah. So the listener, because a lot of people, they hear the word Myanmar, which is the current name, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
it is, right? And then when you say Burma, they go like, "Oh, Burma. Oh, is that the same country?" So it's a little bit confusing.
And then you have to find out how the name was changed, and is it actually what the citizens call it?
Yeah.
You know, the same way the capital of Mumbai. What do the citizens call it? I believe it's not necessarily called Mumbai by everyone who lives there. That sort of thing.
Oh, you mean Mumbai or Bombay in India?
Yeah, I read it somewhere. It was many years ago, but it's not necessarily what the citizens, the citizens of the city. It's not necessarily what they're calling it. But anyway, to clear up the confusion, yes, they're both
Myanmar and Burma. Yeah. So we went there like 20 years ago.
Yes, we did. You just told me. I'm shocked. It doesn't feel like that long ago. It really doesn't.
No, because it was such an incredible experience, which, for me also, it's like yesterday.
Yes.
Also before, when I started preparing this podcast, I went through some pictures. I also read some stuff and wrote down some memories, and it's really like yesterday. I can still smell the country.
Well, that I definitely can. Yeah, definitely. And since then, I have bought at least 3 books on Burma, one of which I read. The other 2 are still in my library. I'll get to them.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. And I think one of the reasons it had such a huge impact on us is because, I mean, on one hand, it's hard to stay away from. No, I don't want to get into politics, but on the other hand, this country has a horrible regime, and we were right in the middle there, collaborating with those traditional musicians, and we really experienced some really nasty things, right? So it's kind of hard to stay away about politics, or at least you can't deny it that it's a really complicated country with a lot of oppression towards the people.
Yeah. And, and I think that I personally was not taking it so seriously, the seriousness of the situation, because it seemed so innocent, visiting the country, visiting the musicians, playing and rehearsing with them. But yes, we were being followed. And yes, it was commented to me that my room was bugged and, rigged. And for what? For coming and making contact with the musicians there, which for even less offense, some foreigners have been thrown into prison. But ignorance is bliss. We plowed ahead. We did what we did. But afterwards, many years after, reading more and more about what goes on there, I was thinking, oh my God.
Yeah.
But it was still just an innocent thing that we were doing every day.
Yeah, and the thing was also some background information why we went there, and we were incredibly busy traveling, like, I don't know, maybe 20 countries a year. at least I was, and you were a big part of that too.
Yeah.
We were working for this cultural organization, American Voices,
Yes.
and they send us there. But sometimes if you're so busy, you don't really have time to prepare. You're more living in the moment. And so I also wasn't too really prepared to what was awaiting. I knew I'd been there once before, and of course I experienced already some. I felt people were very uptight, very very scared.
Yes.
But still, you kind of go, okay, you're there to play music. You meet all these beautiful people, and but the real impact actually also. I realized once we were back, or when we went on that plane, almost like escaping the country. I remember that flight we did from Mandalay to Rangoon to fly back to Europe. That we were so relieved that we were on the plane, and we'll get into the details later why, but this happened. But I mean, I'd never had that before.
Yeah. Well, and as well, we were sitting at the gate and they called us right back to customs. Because
true. Yeah.
Yes. I remember that because we were both nervous. Maybe you were sort of more visibly nervous than I was, and your big suitcase fell down. I mean, it was standing up, it fell down, and it sounded like a gunshot, which made things even worse.
Already at that time, I was carrying big suitcases.
Yeah. Yes, because, they were looking for evidence of propaganda, or not propaganda. They were looking for, material, political material that some of the citizens were hoping to get out, and they couldn't get out, and they were looking for that.
Yeah.
And they weren't satisfied that they hadn't found anything. I had something that we'll discuss later. It was, once again, not such a big thing, fairly innocent, but it was a big thing to the person who passed it to me. But I had it well packed. I mean, I packed my stuff in tight. They would have had to it would be like unrolling cement. It was really impossible to find. But I just packed it because I pack everything in tight. But I didn't think that it was something that could have, landed me in jail or prison. Maybe now I know. Now I know better. But
but what we experience, you can be. They can, like you said before, they can throw you in jail for nothing there.
Yeah, they've thrown people in jail for just being suspicious of anything.
Yeah. Because also I remember there was this percussion player there who played the putwain. You remember the putwain? It's like that, like kind of percussion. It sounds a little bit like marimba, and they were sitting in a circle.
I know what it was called, but oh yes, beautiful.
Yeah. And this guy, this percussion player, he had no teeth, and then it turned out that he refused to play a gig for the military, for the government, for the regime at some dinner, and he refused it, and they knocked out his teeth.
Well,
that's stuff. What happens there?
There's another musician in the band who was invited, or shall we say, ordered to also come and play for some governmental function, and he, for some reason, he couldn't or didn't, and he was thrown in prison for 1.5 years. He was also in that group of musicians that we were with. Yeah.
But let's maybe, we're in a very negative thing here. But I mean, because I remember when I went there for the first time. I mean, the scenery, the beauty of the country, the Shwedagon temple in Rangoon or Yangon, and the sweetness of the people and the temples and the food, everything. It's so wonderful.
Still, on the good side is that we got there and we were there to connect with the musicians, and it's not like we were there as sort of messiahs to show them how we do what we do. We were really there as well. Not as well. We were there as sponges to soak in all of those amazing things that they were doing. And it was great that we were not only visiting, every day we were getting in the car and visiting musicians, some of the elderly musicians who were worshipped and respected as gods. That wonderful lady, she played, what instrument was that?
Yeah,
she was
the harp.
elderly.
The harp?
The harp, yes. Yeah. Oh, she was so lovely. Yeah. And then she invited us to come back the next day to make breakfast. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, is she going to make, because she was so old. I was thinking, how is she going to manage? But I was so thrilled that she wanted us to be there the next day to have breakfast with her. And it was really, really great. So special.
Yeah.
And we were, I think, every day just going to visit 4 or 5 people, being followed, which we found out later.
Yeah.
But we were going every, just seeing so many, and artists, poets, a painter as well, or a couple of painters. Yeah, the cultural community who were as happy to receive us as we were just thrilled to meet. Yeah.
It was amazing. Do you also remember that we went to this lady? She was the widow of a famous Burmese composer, and he wrote a book. He wrote actually, and he had an ink pen. He had an ink pen because he wanted to, because in Burma or Myanmar, they have their own, also their musical notation, which is different than the Western one. And he had this ink pen, but this ink pen was apparently only for the Burmese way of, alphabet. Oh. And he worked on the bot. He kind of, I don't know. He managed to convert the ink pen. It's a crazy story that he could write into Western notation, our notation, so to speak. And then he made with Burmese songs. He had this whole book. I still have it somewhere with Burmese songs.
Yeah.
He gave it. She gave it to us.
That was so lovely. That was so lovely.
Yeah. And then we also met Kodu. And Kodu, he had a studio. And actually, I looked it up. I think it still kind of exists.
Is it?
It's called Oasis Studio in Yangon or Rangoon. That's the same thing, eh? Yangon or Rangoon, Burma, Myanmar, and now they have a new capital, actually. It's still, So sorry again for the confusion here, but
I haven't.
Yeah. And because Kodu was the one who actually connected us with all the musicians, because he knew the whole music scene there. And then, I remember you saying because he was really trying to get something going in an extremely difficult country, and then you said, "This guy is basically an activist."
No, he is, and it's so interesting. In a lot of countries that I've been to visit these local schools where they're really fighting for everything. Just even the most minute poster on the wall, they're activists. They're active. I mean, and we are too as well. If we're going against the grain in any sense, if we're going against the grain, just by being musically ourselves, that makes us activists as well. I'm actually telling my students that, it used to be, you go to music school because it's a beautiful thing and you're making wonderful sounds, but every time you step into a classroom, you're opposing some factor of popular thought about the place of culture in our society, and you are activists. You're no longer just musicians or music students. You are activists, and the harder you push, the more activists you are. But they definitely were, because they were, these like Kodu, just an idea in his head which seemed crazy. How are you going to set up a school here, music school, and get instruments and try and bring the local musicians up to as best a level as you can? How is that going to happen? This is Burma or Myanmar, but he's doing it.
Incredible.
Yeah,
But
and I believe somewhere around 2005 or 6, his school was confiscated by the government, or something happened. The school could no longer be in the same location.
Yeah.
But I'm glad. And if you remember, when we came back, we immediately were asking friends for real books and cassettes. There were cassettes, still cassettes, and CDs. And we packed up a whole big box, and we sent it to our contact there's not an embassy there. There's the country is so, how do you say, the government is so remote from specifically speaking, the U.S. There, there's not even an officially recognized embassy there. Not even a consulate. What they have there is what is it?
Yeah, what is it called? Yeah, I know what you mean. They have kind of there was something there. Yeah,
there's something there and so we sent it to our contact there, because you could not send it, through the normal mail service. It wouldn't reach its destination. And we were so happy to do that, because we were so inspired by how hard he was pushing against everything.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. What a fighter. Yeah.
And when we went to that school, they were playing great stuff, just great stuff.
Yeah, because the music there is also something which really blew my mind. I mean, it's kind of, they have sometimes it was even like atonal. You remember? The music was kind of not like groovy, rhythmical. There was some rhythm there, but they had really like those melodies with all these intervals going all over the place. And then the Burmese people, they all know those songs. It's like almost like contemporary classical stuff that also blew my mind. And that's what I've seen before in other countries which suffer from being so, let's say, isolated, that sometimes the music becomes very special because of that, because there is no influence from other sounds, especially back then.
Yeah, that is definitely one advantage for sure.
Yeah. It was just amazing, and then we went to Rangoon, and then I think we played a concert there. But then the main reason we were there was because we were supposed to play this concert in Mandalay, which is the second city of the country. Yeah. And we went there, and there we hooked up with all these traditional musicians again, because also there in Mandalay was a huge scene of local musicians, traditional musicians, and then we really started to rehearse, and that was really so beautiful what we were creating there.
Yeah, we were just playing together, jamming together, just learning so much about their music, and they loaded everything into their cars and brought it to the hotel, set it up on stage. It looked beautiful, such an incredibly beautiful instruments. Yeah,
I like this harp. Yeah, they have the harp, the Burmese harp, which is in the form of a boat.
Yes.
And then they had all these like wind instruments like the ney, and really, I think if you, also for the listener, if you would go and search on Burmese instruments, you'll probably find a lot of stuff there, because it's really fascinating to see images of this country, because it's also, it's also, it lies right in between Thailand and Bangladesh.
Yes, exactly.
So it is this mixture of South Asian and Southeastern Asian culture. You taste it in the food, the musical instruments. It's fascinating, and it's really different than And then also we met the Mustache Brothers.
Yes, we did. That was quite something. Yes.
Yeah. And the Mustache Brothers were three brothers, like comedians, actors, singers, musicians. and they were openly. They had their own little venue, and they were doing shows every day. Also combined with the puppeteering.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
And
they were.
and they were like arrested and thrown in prison like a zillion times, but nobody really could stop them, and they became a cult.
And they would put on a show almost every evening. I mean,
Yeah,
it seemed almost every evening. And I think there were other foreigners in the. I mean, how many of us were there in that space of the show? Perhaps maximum 20, if there were 20. And they were putting on a performance, and it was always subtly taking a jab at the government, or maybe sometimes less subtle. And that was a thing that I had in my suitcase, because he just came over and he gave his posters of he gave the posters of their act and maybe a couple of magazine. Well, no.
Yeah, like some promo material. Yeah. No.
Promo material. And so I had it very tightly packed in my suitcase, and they were looking for, so the customs officials were looking for that at the airport. They'd searched my bag once, and they called us back to search it again. And I'm not sure how things would have gone if they'd have found it. But yes, it was. And then they came to the hotel on the last day. That's when I got the material from him, with someone lurking in the background trying to see what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I thought what was really interesting for me was that then I didn't use a cell phone. You did. I know you did, but I didn't. That was 2003. And so the only way that I could contact my husband was sending a fax through the hotel reception. But the hotel reception would not let fax be sent unless they were translated by official translator who will show up and read the fax. But the thing is, I used to write my husband in a little bit of English, a little bit of Spanish, and an occasional word in Dutch. So they were waiting to find out how many translators were available. So actually, I sat in the lobby for at least 2 hours waiting to see if my fax was coming through, which was just, I'm alive. But I was sitting in that, and it was a beautiful hotel, absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
But yeah, even that, if it was built on the back of free labor, we can call it slave labor, sometimes prisoners, but yeah, it's another story. But it's, that was the bitter that came with the sweetness. It was still the beauty and the fascination of everything that still made it worth it. And anything negative that came out of it, well, it's just one more chapter in my book. But I'm here alive. We're here alive.
Yeah.
And it was interesting enough for us to talk about it afterwards. But yes, Mustache Brothers were definitely. Meeting them, the whole family was. We got there early enough to meet their brothers and sisters and their babies, and then later on it was showtime.
Yeah,
that was
it was amazing. And I just read before we started recording that Parparley, which was one of the guys, he died in 2013, and he passed away. And what's suspected is that he died because in prison they gave him something with the water was so bad he had to drink that it caused a kidney failure. That's because they've been trying to kind of kill those guys, but they also knew the government, they couldn't really do it because, it would be such a, because they were really known. They became a cult. So they were a pain in the, in the what for the for the local government there. And because there was also like I remember a joke, like they said, I wrote it down, it said so a Burmese guy goes to Thailand, the neighboring country, to visit a dentist, and then the dentist asks, don't you have any dentists in Burma? And then the guy says, yeah, we do, but in Burma we cannot open our mouths.
Oh gosh, yeah.
That kind of humor they had, you know.
I get it. Yeah, and that's the thing. There are so many ways to be resistance fighters, and yeah, one of them was with humor, which it goes straight to the people, and yeah, it gets in there. The message gets in there loud and clear, but it gets in there with humor.
Yeah.
They were doing it. They were doing it incredibly well.
Yeah.
And the fact that they had gotten so much status that the government had to find subtle ways to take them down.
Yeah. And I
still have those posters.
You still have them?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's amazing. And so what we did was we rehearsed. And we were, because there was like a final concert, you know, like a showcasing hour. That was the idea. So we were there in Mandalay, and also I really remember the beauty of that city. Like from our hotel room, we had a view on this mountain, which was like filled with temples. You know, it was like such a magic. The whole energy there was pure magic. Yeah. And then we were, so what happened was that there was the sound engineer there who was supposed to do the sound. And we went to the studio to check the equipment he had to bring to the venue.
True, yeah.
And then we were followed on that visit. You know, because we were followed. And then after we left the studio, they questioned the sound engineer, and who got really scared. And he said, well, I don't know, you know, I'm just doing the sound here. And there are 2 foreign musicians who are doing this fusion concert with Burmese musicians, but that's all I know. And that's actually all he did know. I mean, and it was total innocence. Our idea was just to share our love, our appreciation, our, you know, that's what we do. You know, that music is a universal language, and we share our love. And, you know, like you said before, being a sponge, soaking up all that incredible music there. There were absolutely no political intentions or whatsoever, just to create beautiful music, innocent as we are. And then at the very, like I think it was like 1 hour before the concert, the police came with these sticks and all of that. It was kind of a military police, and they really like violently chased all these musicians away from the stage, and we never saw them again.
No, we never saw them again. Their instruments were still there. So
it was so weird.
When you and I decided to do the concert as a duo, we had this gorgeous stage in the background, full of amazingly beautiful instruments, but no one to play them. My understanding was as well that the musicians, they could decide to come back and do the concert, but if they did, the hotel staff would be taken for questioning. I put in parentheses, which means they would be taken, and some of them would stay in jail, in prison.
Yeah.
And they would just be in prison just because of any decision we made. And so we were hands off. We were like, oof.
Yeah.
Let's just do a duo concert. But that was just extreme paranoia.
Yeah. They were so scared, you know. I mean, anything can happen there. You can be arrested for nothing. I actually listened to a podcast last night. That's actually a good tip. If you're a Dutch speaker, there was a very nice podcast. I'll put it in the show notes about Burma. It's like one that goes really in depth about the whole history, about everything. Oh. Yeah. It's and I guess in English or other languages, there are great podcasts about Burma as well. Myanmar, you know, about the country.
I can listen in Dutch.
Yeah,
Finally.
yeah. Now you can after so many years. No, but in general, people were listening because it's such a fascinating country to explore and learn about. But then, so what was I saying? Yeah, I remember because, I really love playing with you. And we did a lot of great concerts, all over the world. And I remember, I will never forget how miserable we felt on that stage. It was like maybe the only gig in my life I really didn't want to play because all these people were chased and the audience came in. So we had to do something. We couldn't, and it was like jam packed with people. There were hundreds, I don't know, so you cannot just go like, sorry, we had to, the show must go on. Actually, that was the situation, but then in a very awkward way. And I remember
they were a very grateful audience as well, and very relieved that we were, because we had come from very far away.
Yeah.
And so they still got a good music for the evening. But they also, just being there, they knew how things were. And so they were also relieved and grateful that we had found a solution. I think I threw in a couple of references to the Mandalay or the situation when I was singing my songs. A couple of lyric. There were a couple of lyric changes, which were, not really noticeable by whoever needed to sit and get incarcerated for anything.
That was courageous of you to do that.
I was a little pissed off.
Yeah.
But even so, I just threw in a couple of things.
Yeah. Because because another thing with that country is it was colonized, or there's a lot of British influence there. Right?
Yes.
That's why the traffic is, they drive on the left side. All things like that, and it's a lot of and they have also they think in miles and inches, like not the metric system, but the other one.
We'll call it the other one.
The other one. Sorry about that.
What is it called? I don't even know.
I don't know. Yeah. So a lot of people there speak English, especially. The older generation, I remember. So I mean, people really, it was not like in terms of language, it wasn't so isolated because a lot of people speak English there because of the British influence. So you took quite a risk with those lyrics, changing them around. You were actually, in a way, it was one of the Mustache Brothers.
Oh yeah.
Protesting.
But, it's easy to hide lyrics in a song. It's easier than talking. I mean, they really have to pay attention.
Yeah.
And then they really have to know, well, was this part of the song? Was this the original? The whole thing? I mean, there's a whole chain of thought and events that will have to happen before they actually said, oh, she's being disrespectful. Yeah. I mean, it's, actually before we did, before I had a tour of China with my quartet, I had to send in my whole repertoire and all of the songs had to be translated.
Yeah.
And in that case, that's a different story, but
I had the same thing with Iran. I had a gig in Iran, which was canceled when 9/11 happened.
Oh,
but But I had to send a video with the exact lineup of the band, and if a band wouldn't be the same band, the same musicians, I couldn't go. So that was also, how it goes. Musicians, sometimes you cannot find the same people to work with.
Yeah, exactly.
It was Some countries are like that.
Yeah.
It's very, very different. But But at the end of the day, you went to China.
Yes. When was that? Maybe it was around. Could be around 2013 or even later, 2015.
Yeah.
I wrote a lot about. I have a news blog on my website, and I wrote all about my China adventures, which was also incredible. We went to 7 cities.
Fantastic. I'll put your website in the show notes. I think it's DeborahJCarter.com, right?
Deborah J. Carter. Yes.
Deborah J. Carter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you do it without the J, you still land on my website. It's thank goodness. I don't know how that happens, but yes.
So if you just do Deborah Carter, you don't end some
But just in case, do Deborah J.Carter.
Like a surfing champion or something. No. Deborah J. Carter. Yeah.
Surfing the web.
Yeah. Surfing the web. Yeah. Yeah. And I know you're great at blogging, so please.
Oh, well, I have to get up to date. You know, it takes some time because it's actually writing an article and adding pictures. And so I'm a little bit behind. I'm a few months behind with a couple of latest, adventures. But I really appreciate it's also for myself. You know, sometimes a trip goes by so quickly that you need some sort of reference, for yourself to just go back and read about.
Yeah.
And yes, Mike, your pictures are there in the news blog as well, because some of those trips were made together.
Yeah, and we should talk about other countries as well in future episodes, because it's really, I mean, we still have, where did we go? We went to Saudi Arabia. We went to Kazakhstan. Kyrgyzstan, Azerbaijan. Yeah. And so there's still there are still many podcasts to be recorded. Yeah.
True.
So yeah.
And it's all about really the wonder of how music, jazz specifically, just reaches every corner. And just once we're there, you pick up on what's going on there, and it's just one more element to add to your own style of music, which is really great. Really, it was a great thing to do and to discover that it's everywhere.
Yeah, it's amazing. And speaking about Burma or Myanmar, I also remember how well we blended with the local musicians and how open they were to what we were doing.
Yes.
I mean, they were so used to playing their music in their way. But we were very humble, and we really created something around their music.
Yes, we did. I mean, and why not? Because it's. I still have the curiosity that I had as a child, and you too.
Yeah.
From what I and so yes. What is that? And what can we do? What if I add that to this? It's just fun. Yeah. It's just what we do. And really great.
Yeah.
Really great. Yeah. It's such a huge learning experience.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. Yeah, and it keeps us young. This curiosity and this. I'm to date while we were recording this. I'm going to Australia for the first time in September.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, and I've never played in Australia, and I'm, and after more than 100 countries, you could think, okay, another country. I mean, I know that the shopping centers will be totally identical to any shopping center in the world, shopping mall. Sure. But other than that, I'm really excited. Like,
They have, I hear, a fairly healthy jazz scene, and there are lots of clubs, and
festivals.
Yes, absolutely.
Kangaroos.
Kangaroos.
So I want to hug one. Yeah, so let's see what happens. But no, what I'm trying, we're the same. We're still so curious, and we really have been around, I've seen that with many artists, like even like Toots Thielemans, he had to stop playing because he had hearing problems. But
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why he stopped playing when he was 92. Yeah. And then he was sitting at home the last 2 years of his life being miserable because he couldn't play anymore. Because he just wanted to be on stage. And that's how we are. That's what music does with us. That's why. Yeah. That's why I'm so grateful.
I really love teaching as well. It's because then it's structured sharing, but it's the same old thing as always. It's sharing, whether in an informal setting or in a formal structured setting. It's just sharing.
You're an amazing teacher, because we've done some workshops and I'm okay, but you're really something.
Oh, Mike, you're too.
No,
Thank you.
you're really how you get the message across to people at any level. It really blew my mind.
Oh, thank you, Michael.
Yes, Deborah. Yes. Yeah.
I'm going to walk taller today.
Yes. You should, Deborah. Yeah. So thank you so much for this wonderful talk about Myanmar and Burma. What I suggest the listener.
Yes.
Sorry. Huh?
So great walking down memory lane with you again.
Yeah. We'll record a couple of more episodes about different countries. And again, I would strongly recommend the listener to explore a little bit more about Burma, Myanmar, because and also there is some YouTube with the traditional music from there, and it's really fascinating. So check it out. And please check our websites, DeborahJ.Carter.com or MikeDelFerro.com, and you'll find all our music is there, podcasts, schedules, where we're performing, etc., etc. So please check us out there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And happy travels.
Same to you.
Thank you.